you can go on YouTube and actually see if something's going out.
How do I get the link?
So,
we're gonna send you a link.
hold on, I'm gonna get out of this. Hold on. No, because I made it public. So see if it shows up on YouTube / our Opposing Bases channel. It might be on there.
Hold on, I'll either call you back or send you a link.
Okay.
It's on there? All right, we're streaming.
Oh, sweet.
I got 72% battery, and my phone is the internet. Yeah, it's on there.
Okay.
Oh man, that's trouble. It's showing up on YouTube? Sweet. Now it's going to be volume from my computer, but we don't have.
How do I share this? If you guys need, you can steal chairs, I think, from over there. Okay.
Logan. Today, I know I'm calling you out. Sorry. I think I just changed the input on the microphone, and
I thought you were on it.
check. Oh, that's working. Yep. And let's just turn it down just a little bit on 4. Can you hear voices a little bit better? Okay, there's a lag on it on YouTube. It's probably like 10 seconds. Sweet. Ask your mom how that sounds. Cool. Yeah. Where's the beer? Okay, you ready? We'll go off these. We're live.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. I think we're just about ready.
All right, we got record running on Zoom 1 and 2. All right, everybody. We'll let everybody take their seats. We got a couple more coming in now, and we'll get started. Thank you. We good?
Yeah. How's everybody here? Can you hear? So, we need louder?
A little bit louder.
loud,
A little
okay,
bit louder.
More loud.
How about now? All right, very
A
good.
little better? Okay.
Can't hear you over Torrance.
Hey, Sue. Hey, we're going to have to deal with the plane noise. We can't make it that loud. It won't work. We good? All right. This is normally what we'd have like a list of things we're doing to get ready to record.
Yeah, my checklist. I don't have that.
We're already recording.
We are.
I don't have to do a sound count in for AG.
One.
We're sure we're recording. Andy's the sound guy. Thank you, Andy.
Yes.
Uh-oh.
Are you sure we're recording? Because I don't have time on Sunday to come back and do this again.
Everybody, this is Mike from Flying Live Podcast. It was awesome. He was the one who joined me on the EAA AirVenture NOTAM episode. Thank you. For those of you who don't know, we're doing a live show of OB188 today. If you've never heard our show, go check it out. There's the web. See, we need to push the space bar for us.
Did they take it or?
Oh, yeah. Forget it. It doesn't matter. There was something on the screen that was distracting. So
Yeah.
We're recording a live show today. Anybody who wants to step up to the mic later is free to and use whatever initials you want, whatever you're comfortable with. This is currently being streamed on YouTube, on our YouTube channel at Opposing Bases. Check it out if you want to, or you want to send it to somebody. And it's just filming us. You guys are not on camera. So,
Mic discipline.
yeah, I'm sorry. Mike Discipline.
Yeah, mic discipline.
If I touch it, it's going to break again.
Yeah, don't touch it.
Okay, I won't touch it. All right. We're going to go.
Ready. This is Opposing Bases Air Traffic Talk. Your hosts, Romeo Hotel and Alpha Golf, have a combined 40 years of aviation experience as pilots and air traffic controllers. They answer your questions and share their opinions about flying and air traffic control. This show is not official guidance and should not be used as a replacement for your instructor, your pilot examiner, the endless books of regulations, your favorite comedian, your neighbor, your spouse, or your cat.
November 628 Charlie Delta Squawk 1200, frequency change approved. The audio will be available on live ATC. Good day.
November 643 Juliet Mike, visual approach, runway 23 left, Conic Tower.
November 3222 Yankee, area of heavy to extreme precipitation, 10 o'clock to 1 o'clock, 15 miles, 7 miles in diameter.
3047 Charlie, try departure, radar contact, climb and maintain.
November 747 Sierra Lima, reduce speed to 180, you're overtaking traffic ahead on final.
Skyhawk 77 Tango, airport cancellation received, squawk 35, frequency change approved.
Sierra 720 Foxtrot Alpha, flight 190 vectors for the visual approach, runway 23 left.
Class Charlie surface area from the east, maintain special.
Charlie Fox Golf Foxtrot Alpha, this is Triad Approach, on guard. You are being intercepted. The border is still closed. Say intentions.
Please welcome your favorite controllers, Alpha Golf and Romeo Hotel.
Thank you.
It's Friday, July 30th, 2021, episode 188. On today's show, we'll take live questions from our live audience at EAA AirVenture, talk about the start of Opposing Bases, and discuss some unusual phraseology. What's up, AG?
Hello, everyone.
Happy Friday
Yes.
at AirVenture.
Yes.
They didn't shut the air show off like we requested.
Yeah, they said we have your request. And everybody knows what that means.
So we are live at the forums in the heart of the air show. You can hear it in the background for those of you that are hearing this later on. We have a very big audience. It's awesome to see everybody's faces. Thank you for coming out.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm the one without mic discipline.
Go ahead.
You sound fine. Is it me?
No. I interrupted you. I didn't mean to. I'm very sorry.
I'm going to thank Andy one more time. He's our sound guy, making sure this gets pulled off. Thank you, Andy. We'll try to stick with a normal show format for the first little bit. We'll get through some announcements. There's some people in the crowd that we want to mention today specifically. And once we get done with that and a little bit of feedback that we pulled from patron supporters, we will move on to some live questions from the audience. So we have a microphone set up. Think about anything you want to ask, even if it's been asked and answered several times on the show. Feel free to ask it again. It's fine. I forget what we talked about yesterday, so it's okay if we talk about it again.
That's right.
Yeah. Anything before we get going?
No, just again, thank you all for being here.
Good pause. That was good.
For your continued support, your listening. If you just wandered in and saw a bunch of people sitting around, welcome. We do a regular podcast, a weekly podcast. We're both pilots. We're both air traffic controllers. And we basically just answer listener feedback. Pilots typically that are writing in and asking questions about why did this happen? Why is this happening? And we answer those from what we believe to be our unique perspective. So that's where we're coming from.
Yeah, we've been doing the show for about almost 4 years, 3.5 years. And haven't missed a Monday or Tuesday.
Sort of. Sometimes we record double episodes and then the second one gets put out the week, the next week. But this is 188? So 188 weeks. We've been doing this pretty consistently every week. So.
Thank you. All right, let's get going.
All right.
Ready.
So since OB187, we did these show notes a few weeks ago. I know there's some new patrons in here. If you're here and you're brand new this week, I probably don't have you on here, but I think I got everybody from up until about a couple days ago. We have a few new patrons in the show listener tier. Alpha. And if you're here and I say your initials and you think you're one of these people, stand up, say hello, please.
Yeah.
Alpha Foxtrot, Mike Hotel, Yankee India, Hotel Romeo, and Mike Kilo are new in the show listeners here. Delta Oscar, Charlie, and Romeo Whiskey are our newest patrons in the show supporter tier. And finally, Alpha Bravo and Hotel Romeo up their per show pledge to the show supporter tier. Thank you, everybody. Patrons get access to our live video stream. This is the first time we've streamed public. It'll always be going out to our patrons. This is the first time we've streamed to anybody that happens to be watching YouTube right now and clicked on our channel. They can watch this live. Patrons also get early releases, which they got a few this month when we recorded early to prepare for AirVenture. Discounts in our store, and of course, our awesome shout-outs with your initials, and we thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
If you'd like to learn more about supporting the show, check out OpposingBases.com or Patreon.com/OpposingBases. And if you haven't done so already, leave us a 5-star rating and a review on iTunes. That really helps get eyes on the show. There's a ton of content out there. The more eyes we can get on the show, the more listeners we have, and everybody has fun. So thank you, everybody.
Drop.
Radios at announcements.
This format is really thrown out.
That it is harder to do this on
It
Facebook.
really is, yeah.
When we first started the show, we had printed out all of our notes.
Yeah, because when I scroll this one, it goes up. I could kind of see through it. I could see the words behind the words. Yeah. Reviews and announcements.
Yeah, you want to start?
Yeah. Patron Delta Bravo just got his instrument rating.
Is Delta Bravo here? Congratulations.
That's a big deal.
Before I forget this one, I wrote it next to that. Romeo Bravo, who's here today. Patron Romeo Bravo. Supporter through PayPal. Thank you. Hold on. I haven't made the announcement yet. a couple years ago when we met, his airline was about a year ago, was going through the ups and downs of COVID. Since then, he has accepted and bid on a captain slot at his airline. Congratulations.
Number 2, patron Lima, Quebec earned his multi-engine commercial rating.
Any of these people here, that would be awesome.
Nope.
All right, we have a couple new reviews today. They're both, one's in big print. How about you do that one? I'll do the little
You're
print
saying
one.
I'm blind?
I'll do the first one. From, I think this is a patron, Julia Papasierra. The title of this one caught my eye. They are all great reviews. We do appreciate the reviews. I think it's fun to go through shows and see the reviews, and we have a lot of fun reading them. So
Yes, we do.
this one's called "Put the Kibosh on Not Understanding Air Traffic Control." 5 stars from Julia Papasierra. Are you tired of mindlessly listening to live ATC with zero context? Do you aspire to be a pilot? Do you aspire to be a better pilot? Are you going on a discovery flight this summer and hoping to blow your CFI away with your knowledge of ATC operations and comms? If you said yes to any of these questions, when you've come to the right place. RH and AG provide the aviation community with an amazingly entertaining and comedic listening experience. The pair are incredibly informative and almost secretive as they share their experiences navigating and controlling the mysterious triad airspace. If you can get past the robot voices and constant giggling, you'll learn to appreciate the value of them both. I'm preparing to tackle my private pilot license, and I would be much less prepared if I hadn't listened to the first 100 episodes of the show. I feel like I know these guys, very much looking forward to flying through your airspace one day and picking up an astronaut hat. Until then, switching over to departure and never ever saying "with you" when I check in.
Thank you.
Thank you, Julia Papasierra.
We do appreciate that. But, and I'm trying to get better about this, the folks that check in and say "with you," I try to remember to say, "and I'm also with you." That was not my phrase. I picked that up from somebody else. I don't know who it was. Anyway, the next review is from Melrose Mark. Anybody? No?
Any Melrose Mark.
Best Aviation Podcast. RH and AG have redefined what makes a successful podcast. They are educational, entertaining, and improving aviation safety every week. Above all, they are unfailing, decent people. I don't know. who never have an unkind word for any listener. They see their mistakes and those of pilots or other controllers only as opportunities to improve aviation for all of us. My aggravating news consumption since finding OB is way down, and my odd fits of laughter while listening to the podcast in traffic are way up. I'm a new SGAC patron, and thanks for all you do. Well, thank you, Melrose Mark, for your 5-star review. Very nice.
Thank you, Melrose Mark. Number 5, a quick shout out to patron Golf Tango. He travels from New Zealand every year. He can make it this year. Really, for anybody who can't make it over here to AirVenture, I know it was canceled last year. They canceled the event for things we won't discuss, but it's good to see everybody's faces again. And for those that can't come out to AirVenture, hopefully we'll see you in 2022, including Golf Tango. We're thinking about you. You want to get the last one?
Yes, and this is the last shameless plug of our selves. We made it to the top of the aviation charts. As of today, we're the #1 aviation podcast of all time in the United States. That is because of you guys that are sitting here, you folks
Yes.
listening at home or wherever you are, driving in your car, riding your bikes, some of our listeners. Anyway, it's because of you guys. We really appreciate it. Thank you for sharing the show, for leaving those 5-star reviews. It helps a ton to put the podcast out there into other people's feeds. So we really appreciate it. Thank you very much. We're humbled and we're honored, even if it's just for a week, to be in that spot. So
Yes.
thank you very much.
Thank you very much. All right, I'm not going to press my cheers button, so when I go to timely feedback, the cheers noise is coming from the actual crowd.
the feedback.
I'm the feedback.
Am I on one or you?
I just did this.
You did, and it was you added something.
And
to that. I feel like your ad
well-
was very well thought out.
Okay, thank you. And my
You did the longer review.
the longer review and the words were bigger.
Have some water. I'll do number one.
Oh, thank you.
From Patron, Mike Echo Delta from Sydney. Hello, RH and AG. It's been a while that I sent me feedback. We have been in COVID lockdown here in Sydney every now and then, so not much we can do about that. Anywho, I recently flew. I have not had any beverages today yet. No, I mean alcoholic beverages. I recently flew from a non-towered airport. I'm used to flying from a Delta airport. I made my calls taxiing, waiting for an aircraft on final, and then taking off and leaving the airspace. It wasn't until before entering a class Charlie and them not responding that I noticed that no one could hear me. Well, that was timely.
So, for the people listening that aren't here live, if you're not hearing those planes, these awkward pauses are for these warbirds to go flying by. So,
The 172 has a different button for push to talk, and it had been wired the week prior. The push mic button was broken, and they had one of those strap push buttons on the yoke, but it had slipped under the yoke. So my question, after flying out of a non-towered airport, do you ever make radio test calls? It seems like I should make that part of my non-towered routine. Love your work. Regards, Mike Echo Delta. This is a good question. Does anybody do anything like that out of a non-towered airport? So if there's no one else there, though, how are you confirming that it works? Okay. Okay, there's a person inside is, I hear you. Okay. Okay.
oh yeah, that's a good idea.
So
I like
for
that.
the non-pilots, you can click on pilot controlled lighting. That'll be a good indication that you're transmitting. You might not be able to verify that you can hear anybody at that point, but you can hear that click back. There. Okay. You can't hear it in the audience. You can listen to the weather and click on it on that frequency with the weather and get a little feedback too. So
if your airport has live ATC, you could go on there and make a transmission, wait 5 seconds, and see if you hear.
that's actually a good idea. I mean, if you aren't doing that on your flights, it's a good way to make sure that when you do arrive that you realize, wait, what's wrong here? Is it air traffic? They can't hear me. We run into that every day where it's typically, and I'm not blaming the pilots, but there's either a transfer over to a second radio where the volume is down. We can hear them, and they can't hear us responding. That happens all the time. If you're flying through the NAS, you're hearing that exchange back and forth several times. So if you are leaving a non-towered airport, find a way to check your radio, even if it's with a handheld where you can hear yourself transmitting, and there is no one in Unicom. Listen to that frequency. Can you hear a voice coming out? And it works. So it's a good idea.
Yeah. I think we touched on that, I don't know, 100 episodes ago or maybe.
No clue.
No idea.
No clue whatsoever.
It's possible.
Thank you, Mike Cadelta, and thank you for your support.
Yes. Number 2 from SGAC patron Bravo Sierra in our live audience.
You want to ask it live? Step up to the mic.
Do you need to read your own question?
I think I remember.
Okay.
My question is how did OB opposing bases get started? What was the impetus? How did it get going?
Okay. So I don't think I kind of briefly touched on this. Well, not really how it got started. Occasionally we will go over this on a show. It's probably been a while though.
Yeah, it has been a while
since we have. So I think really what started it was we were getting asked questions from controllers and from pilots all the time about pretty common things, and it was the same questions all the time. And you were listening to a lot of podcasts.
The airline pilot guy mainly at that time.
Right. You turned me on to some podcasts. I started listening to them, and after a while, I don't know who first said it. It was probably you. We could do this. We could make a podcast and answer all these questions that people have and just put out, I think we thought 10 episodes would pretty much cover the information that we wanted to
everything
to
we
put out.
need. We just, I mean, what, 30-minute episodes? 10 of them should do it, right?
Yeah. Well, I think, put out, we made some notes for those first episodes, and we had content that we decided on. And after about 3 or 4, you guys started writing stuff in, and then that's all that drives it now. It's your questions. I mean, it turned in from, hey, we have this stuff that we want to put out, to you have these questions that we need to answer. And so 188 episodes later, here we are. It just was it never was intended to be.
No, and we had no idea we'd ever be heard by more than our family and the friends that we forced to listen to it. And it grew quickly. It was pretty quick before we started getting, responses. And another shout out to Jeff at Airline Pilot Guy Show. His show was really an inspiration for me on the production side, because he walked me through how to set it up and, all the equipment we needed. And his format, a lot of our show matches his. We say feedback. He says that, and they do a feedback section, but it's a great way to engage with the audience. And here now, if you guys didn't write any emails, it doesn't work. We have to, we're more than happy to provide topics, and sometimes we do that. Most of the time now, it's based on an actual email from a listener. But at the beginning, we were kind of, hey, what else have controllers in the room that we've worked with been confused about? I think episode 2 was on the autopilot. Non-pilots don't understand. The autopilot is just an extension of you. It's smart as what you put into the system, and it will also kill you if you say kill me in this sequence of buttons. It will do that. But controllers that don't, generally with no aviation experience, don't understand that. They have no concept in general of what's happening in an airplane when you're trying to get in each phase of flight: takeoff, cruise, descent, all the items that you're checking off that are stressful as a pilot. They take that for granted and think, well, they just push buttons, push the button, when they want to talk to us and do what I say. What's so hard about it? And it's really interesting to talk to one of them that goes on a discovery flight and their eyes are opened, even if it's in, just in the practice area and one loop in the pattern. It's an eye-opening experience for them. So the reason I'm talking about it with the controllers in our building is because that was really the backbone of us thinking there's got to be people out here that want to hear this type of thing. We're getting these questions all the time. And I think, at least I did, I thought more controllers would listen.
Yeah.
And that's not the case. I mean, there are controllers that listen.
They're terribly lazy. Yeah, especially the center guys. Yeah. I tell you what.
So, and the general aviation crowd, 12,000 feet and below is our bread and butter at our facility. And it turns out that's, the majority of our feedback is from pilots that are flying approaches in our airspace or similar type places asking questions. So, and like he said, this show has only gone further because of all the feedback we get.
Yeah. I mean, if you have a question, he has the same question over here, and she has that same question over there. And so we just like a conduit, really, for this forum that happens through the show, and that's sort of what it's grown into. So anyway, I guess that kind of answers where it came from.
And some of you have asked us when you met us in person, you heard our name. It's like, whoa, why did you say your name? We're more comfortable now than we were at the beginning in having a public forum to say these things. We've never been approached by the FAA saying, "Hey, what are you guys doing?" We do our best to stay above board and stay away from, current incidents that are being investigated. Anything that's controversial, we do try to steer away from that. And the initial started from, that's how we sign on and off positions at work. And it was funny, and that was the way he and I started communicating. And it wasn't to be secretive. One Google search, you can figure out what airport we're out of. But
what?
Wait, what? But no one can say to either one of us that we've tried to impress upon anybody that we speak for anybody but AG and I on the show, and the listeners started putting their initials on their feedback, and that's how we did our first forum, and it just kind of went from there. It's without sounding brash about it, it's not the person that says it, it's the content, it's the answer, it's the body of the problem or the issue, and it doesn't matter if Joe or Bob said it. Who cares? And it's cool. I think it's probably cool to hear your initials on the show, but we want you guys to be able to ask us questions and even be specific without worrying about the FSDO giving you a phone call, because it wouldn't be too hard to figure it out if you were telling us I did something wrong. So it's hopefully more inviting for the listeners to give feedback when it's semi-anonymous. So
Yeah. You're happy with that? Yeah. Okay. Good. Where are we at? Number 3. It's you.
Number 3. From patron Juliet Echo Charlie. Those of you who've never heard the show, you don't know. He is our most frequent audio contributor. Sends in awesome audio. Thank you, Juliet Echo Charlie. He said, here's some feedback for the live show. Maybe the audience could chime in on what's super local to them that is unusual in other places. And I have some audio. I'm going to wait 1 second to make sure the bombs aren't going off.
Explosions.
Hey, AGNRH, this is patron Juliet Echo Charlie from Atlanta calling about a question regarding phraseology that you may have learned at the Academy that you don't use all the time, and could you run those operations if they were in your airspace? So what made me think of this is that in A80 there are some parachuting operations, and I tuned into a lesser listened to frequency, lesser listened to by me, and sure enough I picked up where we do some parachute operations, and there was brand new phraseology that I'd never heard before, which makes sense, and all pretty understandable, but the controller wanted to know, when the pilot was 1 minute away from letting the jumpers go, and he had specific, warning phraseology for the pilots in the area, other pilots in the area, and then the pilot that was in charge of the plane with the jumper said, "Jumpers away," and I guess that seemed as pretty plain language. I don't know if it's in the pilot controller glossary or if it's just local slang. So the question really is, and maybe people in the audience have some ideas for their local areas too, do you have certain operations that maybe you learned at the Academy that because you don't use them on a day-to-day basis, you are technically qualified to learn them, or would you have to get recertified for something? Like, do you have an endorsement to do parachute jumping operations, or to operate in to have a military airspace in your area, that kind of thing? Or is it all just very generalized training at the Academy, and then there's localized stuff, just like learning everything else at the facility, that you've got parachuting here or you've got something else there? And what are the other things that might be highly localized, where though they exist for the NAS, that you may not know anything about them? What is something that you guys would have no idea actually how to do because the last time you looked at it was a decade ago or more at the Academy? Thanks.
Thank you, Juliet Echo Charlie. That's a good question. There's a lot behind that. So we'll get a chance to hear from you guys too. I'll talk briefly about unusual phraseology. I'll try to hit this one first. And I know they can hear us on the recording, but if we do have a plane going over, I'll pause so that you and the audience can hear us. I know the speakers aren't going to be able to go over them, but thank you. Hello. Appreciate it. No, seriously, thank you. So this is a good example, AirVenture, which I've never worked and you've never worked. But these controllers here that work in this tower are supplemented by an army of controllers that you see wearing the pink shirts from other facilities, and they go through localized specific training to work all the various positions here in the tower for arrivals. On the, when you fly out, you're going to see them on a little pad next to the departure runway, looking at your plane. They can see your face. I mean, they know when you're looking at them. And then the ones that are over Fisk, if you haven't got a chance to do that and you have access to a car, there's no tram going out there, but Fisk arrival is set up with more controllers in a tent. Well, it's a hut. It's got a radar feed going to it and phone lines. They can communicate with the outside world, and it's several controllers in a table about this size, binoculars up, and it is just like looking at an air show. They are right in front of you when you guys are hitting Fisk and rocking your wings. We went out there in 19. They are right. I mean, in front of their face. So anyway, that would be an example of unusual things. The average controller couldn't just show up at AirVenture and figure it out. This is completely unusual, and obviously for the volume. But for our facility, I feel like we're pretty basic in terms of everyday things. We don't have any military areas to worry about in terms of unusual call signs or high-speed traffic. We don't have any parachute operations that we talk to the pilot in our airspace. We have 2 airports where they drop them on our fence at Southwest Barbecue. What do we call that one down there? What's your shirt?
Oh yeah.
Mid-Triad Southwest Airport. That is right on the edge of our boundary, and we have to use unusual phraseology with the controllers at Metroplex to, coordinate that when they want to show us we're driving human beings right here next to your boundary. In other words, don't aim airplanes with spinning blades of death at those human beings. I don't know. Can you think of any weird examples in our airspace?
Yeah, this whole feedback, I was trying to think of anything that's weird, stuff that we do that other places don't really do. Oh, you do have one?
Yeah, I got one. So we have parallel runways, which isn't unusual. There's a lot of airports with parallel runways, but each of those airports has parallel runways that are a different distance apart. And that dictates the rules and the methodology we have to use to put airplanes on an extended final safely. That is something that if you worked in an airport with just crossing runways, we have crossers, but we don't typically merge arrivals to crossing runways. We can, but it uses all of our CPU in the tower because we're not used to doing that. Whereas some airports like Philly or Miami, all day long, that's what they're doing. But if somebody sat down and tried to do an actual legal final, we don't have a monitor on ILSs, that would be sticky. That would be tough for them to do without some sort of training and monitoring somebody to do it because of all the different rules that apply. And it largely depends on how close those runways are, on how close the planes can get on parallel finals. But that's just one example in our airspace that I can think of. So
special VFR phraseology.
Yeah,
that would be another one. We never remember what it is as controllers.
No.
Yeah.
And when you heard a recent accident out west, the controllers spit out special VFR phraseology. They must do it 10 times an hour because
they did a great job.
Yeah. And this will kind of kick it over. This would normally be where we went into feedback for the rest of the show. We talk about a show topic. Today, I think it will be a good chance to hear from the audience. Please don't make the show end. Someone's got to stand up and ask a question. If you have a specific phraseology one you want to bring up, that's okay if you don't. If not, let's kick it off into the audience.
All right.
Normally, I play a airplane sound flying over.
Not necessary.
Totally unnecessary, but I do play. Hold on.
Wait.
And you need to be the crowd noise again. Payback guy. Payback.
Hey.
Hello.
Hi. My name's Laura Davis. I live in the land of real names, so.
Hello, Lima Delta.
Yes, thank you. Two-time listener, sort of a fan, I guess. I'm just confused because I was told this was like the best aviation podcast show, and I don't see Captain Jeff anywhere. So I just wanted to know, like, how many people did you pay off for all those likes and subscribes and stuff, all those reviews that you just read right now? Because I'm guessing they're fake. So
thank you for the kind words. Yes.
So.
Wow. What I want to know is how much Captain Jeff paid you to stand up here.
I don't disclose my fees to the public.
So the live audience can see you were wearing a shirt from 2019's Osh Bash is what he called it?
No, It's the APG.
It's just the regular.
Oh wait, okay. He used the logo on the front. Okay, I have
Available
that.
on airlinepilotguy.com.
Jeff can't be here this year. We do miss him,
We miss
and I wish
Jeff.
he could be here for this. We did go to his live show in 19. He had his big fancy RV with big giant speakers and power.
Yeah,
power.
I actually heard that the reason he's not here is because you guys got the spot.
We
and-
stole the last
Yeah,
spot for the forum.
so-
Yeah.
Yeah, the forum was generous enough to give us the only one, and they said, "Oh, it's available," and I don't have the schedule in front of me. There's why it's available.
Yeah. Who in their right mind would record a show during an air show?
I look. I still listen to Captain Jeff. I love him. I wish he was here. I miss him, and it's awesome that you brought him up at the show. It's super appropriate.
We do owe them. We do owe APG a lot for getting us our start and helping us get our name out.
Yeah,
there, so.
who in this crowd also listens to Airline Pilot Guy? Exactly.
Yeah, quite a few.
Yeah. And when we first started, he was very generous in sharing our show with his audience. So thank you, Captain
Yeah.
Jeff. Thank
Thanks,
you, Lima
guys.
Delta.
Thanks.
Uh-oh.
This is trouble.
Oh, this is... Have our attorneys talked to him yet? Hey, we need you to sign something first.
Yeah, hang on a minute.
Hello, gentlemen. It's Mike Kilo from the Flying in Life podcast. When we were flying up to Oshkosh this year, I was not flying. My co-owner was flying, and we were headed up the skyline of Chicago, and I zoomed out on the ADS-B, and a couple of showers turned into a line of thunderstorms north of the Windy City Bravo. And I said, we don't want to go that way. And he quickly, we made it. We were still south of the Southwest class Charlie there. And, well, let's just say he stayed outside of the Southwest class Charlie, but I think I could have stuck my fingers in it. How close do you recommend pilots stay away from those magenta lines or blue lines or any of the Delta lines? With ForeFlight, which this is a totally different area of aviation than I started flying in. I started flying in that area with a paper chart and landmarks of highways of where I needed to stay away from and out of the way. I kind of hinted at him that we might have been a little too close when I said, "Hey, traffic's like 1 o'clock, 500 feet above. It's a Southwest 737." It's like hint. But how far away should we be flying away from the airspace that's charted? We can get really close, but be out of it. I mean, I think we're like 1,500 feet outside of the airspace.
I'm going to let you start this one.
Me. Okay. Let me start this by saying, and this is something I've said numerous times, when a controller is at a radar scope looking at airspace, the Charlie is 9 times out of 10 probably not even on the scope. Okay, so at Triad, there's one little half circle that would be half of the surface Charlie. And that's really the only indication you get of a distance. The 10-mile ring it's not on there at all. And if there's somebody that's close, like you're just skimming out and you were out there where I didn't have a line, I might throw up a circle and see, but if you're on the line, I'm never gonna, honestly, and if you're like sticking your hand out into the Charlie, I'm not going to go through the trouble of, hey, track that guy down, see where he lands, call the Unicom, tell him to call us. We're not going to go through that. Now, if you go flying straight over the airport at 1,500 feet or whatever, yeah, you're going to eventually somebody's going to track you down. And the way that works, if you guys don't know, if you're just squawking 1,200 and you fly straight through a Charlie, they're going to tag you up. And they're going to put a little, usually it'll say watch or violator they'll put on there. And they'll pass that to the next sector. Hey, that guy went right through the Charlie. And they'll pass it on to Duke, and they'll pass it on. And as soon as he gets to where he lands, even if it's a non-towered place, they'll call to that place and say, hey, that guy that just landed, he needs a call. Because 300 miles ago, he violated the Charlie triad.
So I think
I'd give yourself a little bit of a buffer because maybe there's some controllers that might actually care if you're right on the line, but nobody's measuring that. I mean,
go ahead.
It's just not as important to us as controllers as pilots as it is to pilots. It's way more important to us as pilots than the controllers are like, whatever. So if you almost hit Southwest, that might be a different
Well,
thing.
and that's what I wanted to add to that. The caveat I would add is, look, if AG and I redesigned airspace, this is without getting all the politics of airspace and Washington and maps. That's a whole different ballgame that we don't have any say on. Charlie airspace is misleading in terms of the traffic that could be around that airspace. We are working, our Charlie goes out 10 miles, the upper ring, from 2,100 to 5,000 feet MSL. Our final approach traffic is at 3,000 in it, but we run our downwinds at 6,000 above our departures, climbing to 5,000 until they get on the other side of the airport. You could be legal at 5,500 feet right above the Charlie on our downwind. And when we say downwind, we're talking about airliners flying. We just make them fly big rectangles to get back to the airport, just like a non-towered airport. It's just bigger. You're doing nothing wrong, but you're right in the middle of the worst place you could possibly be.
You're in a really bad place. Yeah.
So if I ruled the world, Charlie would go out to, there would be one layer of it, and it would go up a little bit higher, 6,000 or 7,000 feet, and we'll let you in it. But to think that just because you're touching Charlie out your window and you're okay, that's misleading. You could be in a very bad spot, and don't think that airspace is the only place that we're working planes that are talking to us. We work airspace 45 miles each way that are getting flight following and that we have IFR responsibilities to. So that's, the dinky little Charlie is, if all we did was Charlie, we'd only need like one person.
Yeah, and I'd go out of my mind.
Yeah. So good question. If you could see other airplanes, it's probably because they got stopped in a descent for you or stopped in a climb underneath you. They're getting a traffic alert, and you're like, wow, that's a really cool looking 787. That is a bad plan. Just don't hesitate to get flight following, and they'll tell you, hey, I need you off my final, please. Go. Please move over here. Oh, okay. Well, we like the air show. No more air show, but.
Lastly, thank you two for putting yourselves out there. That's hard to do when your whole industry, especially your niche of the aviation industry, doesn't like the media, doesn't like talking, especially the guys pushing the tin. So thank you. You two on your own are making all of us pilots better pilots because we're becoming a lot more comfortable with air traffic control, which just makes us better flyers, which makes us better flight followers, which makes us better participants in the NAS. So thank you too. And there's a reason why you guys are number one, and there's a reason why some people are like number 35.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you.
Hey guys, Charlie Juliet here, son of Mike Juliet, patron. Nonetheless, want to ask you guys, or say, number one, thank you. I've been listening to you guys for the better part of 9 months. I knocked out my instrument and my commercial last week, 24 hours apart.
Cool. Congratulations.
Thanks, guys.
Nice.
With that, though, in all my time building, I made a point always just to get really solid on my ATC phraseology. Get up to 10,000 feet so everybody's on the scope, or the fish finder, like we call it, and talk to you guys. One of the craziest things I heard, though, I was flying with a friend over in the middle of Washington, where it looks like Afghanistan, and there was a lasing report. So what are your crazy laser stories? You guys were the pilots or the controller taking the feedback in?
Of a laser event.
Yep.
Well,
I've had a lot of these. I mean, me personally, of aircraft on, that I was working, man, just countless. It's usually airlines. I don't know why. Maybe it's they're a bigger target, or crazy ones though. Some from downtown Triad, we've had them there. We've had them in the middle of nowhere. from residential, from non-residential. There doesn't seem to be any kind of pattern. I had one that the pilots said on frequency, that thing must be able to burn through a house because it lit up the cockpit like it was daytime. So I don't know what these people are out there doing with lasers, pointing like giant lasers, pointing them up at airplanes, but it is not a good idea. And if any of you laser people are listening out there,
stop doing that.
Yeah, you could damage people's eyes too, so it's no good. Stop it.
There's some paperwork we have to do, and really, it's terrible to say this, and I don't want to downplay the importance of pilots actually reporting those events, because one day maybe we'll catch the person over the same spot. That would really be, I think, the best bet of repeated calls from the same place. But they try to hit us with a spot. Oh, it's off my wing, 3 miles. We're looking at, north to south, 90 to 100 miles of airspace. We can do a function to get a lat long. We give that to the sheriff's department, and they, I think, pretty much say, thank you, hang up, and throw it away. It's very, very hard outside of a helicopter flying to that location, finding that person, taking a picture of them doing it, to do anything about it. But it is important that you report it. Obviously, stop looking at it. Don't take the risk of running, them aiming it at your eyes. That can cause damage depending on how strong it is. But, we just got a laser the other night. We just took the midnight shift, and they had left the building, and 5 minutes in, pilot says, I got a laser light event. And it was 15 miles south of our airport, and, yep. Oh, everybody
just
look behind
take
you.
a minute
Very nice.
to see what's happening right now. This is a formation of C-47s and DC-3s. That is not a sight you frequently see. That's pretty cool. That's one of my favorite planes of all time. Just really cool plane.
So thank you for the question. I wish I had a more interesting story. I never got a laser event at the airline that amounted to anything more than I saw some flicker, but nothing that like cartoon draw lighting up and the pilot looks like the Incredible Hulk about to turn green. That didn't happen to me, but have you been?
There was a brief period of time in Afghanistan where we were getting lased. The Apache guys did not take kindly to that.
Mm-hmm.
And
they also have weapons.
Yeah. And once the guys on the ground realized that the laser makes this giant beam going through, right back to their location, they sort of stopped doing that.
Good question, though. Thank you.
Hey guys, listener, I guess SI. Wow, that's really bad initials. Anyway, I got a question for you. So I had been doing some flying on the West Coast with the airline I work for, and I noticed a lot of the clearances we get on SID, so Standard Instrument Departure Procedure. I'll get a top altitude, which corresponds with what's on the plate. But we'll take off and we're flying, and then I get a climb under restricted. But I'm already doing that because I'm going to my top altitude and following what's on the plate. So I'm trying to understand what's the point of telling me that. Unless there's traffic, which it makes sense then. But if there's nobody there, I don't understand what's the point of giving it to me. By the way, I fly a CRJ, and it's mostly the 200. So
unrestricted is not very.
Yeah, we're talking maybe 1,000 feet a minute on a good day during the summer. So, yeah.
So did the specific SID, and you don't have to know the specific one, did it have any intermediate level offs that maybe they were?
No, it's the offshore 2 out of SFO, and it's all at or above the whole way out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I'll say this too. It's mostly a West Coast thing. It's once you get past the Rockies, you don't really hear anymore. So.
Huh.
Yeah, I never heard that when I was in Comair land in the CRJ. We would get descend vias that were complicated, especially at Baltimore, and we didn't have the fancy FMS to do the level offs, but climb and restricted sounds funny because it makes the pilot say, what am I doing? Wait, what was I supposed to be doing? This was the first question that I would, wait, were we supposed to level off somewhere? And most SIDs have 3 million words on the tiny screen, which is mostly electronic now. But you have to zoom in to find these little tidbits of information that are important. And so you're probably zooming into every fix going, wait a second, this one doesn't say it's at or above, at or above, at. Okay, we didn't do anything wrong. He sounds okay. I don't know the answer to that. I wish I did. If it's local to the West Coast, what could have happened was some airlines maybe aren't capable of flying that SID, and the controllers aren't able to use the same exact phraseology with every user maybe, and that's their one over that makes sure everybody's on the same page. You're probably climbing to the top of the TRACON airspace, 12, 16, maybe 22, but I wish I had a better answer for that one.
We're not proficient really with SIDs because ours don't have top altitudes. They don't have intermediate altitudes. It's just RNAV points to point you out of the airspace really. And
we did a weird phase where we were told not to say an altitude, climb via the SID. That lasted very little time.
Yeah.
Nationally, because it was confusing when procedurally we needed them to stop in our airport. Jets stop at 5,000. So the downwinds can stop at 6 and they don't go bang bang.
Yeah, they don't touch.
Yeah. And our SID altitude was 13 or 12. It was probably 12.
12, yeah.
Which was confusing. We're never going to give you 12. Well, unless it's completely dead and you're the only airplane in the airspace, we're likely going to stop you somewhere else. So, sorry.
It's okay.
I wish I had something better.
It just came to mind when you were taking questions, so thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the question, Sierra India.
Hello, I'm a listener Alpha Hotel from the northern Buckeye State Bravo, the one on the lake.
Hello.
And sorry I couldn't get an OB shirt in time. Hopefully this makes up for it. The Super Bowl alternative.
It's a great shirt. It says, "Stop standing up when the plane lands."
Yeah. So I have a question about what you guys can see on the scope. I was recently ferrying a 172 from the busy parallel Charlie that's just north of South Beach Bravo, going up to towards the Music City Charlie. And flying in the summertime, there's storms everywhere. And we were pretty convinced with Center. Atlanta Center was pretty convinced that we would be able to shoot this gap. We were convinced that's what we were looking at. And then all of a sudden we just saw this huge bolt of lightning. And I was, hey, did you guys just see that? And they're like, well, we can't see that.
Right.
So that made me think, okay, well, we're going to have to divert. But I was wondering, what can you guys see on your scope besides maybe precipitation?
It's a good question. You want to get it?
Yeah, so you basically answered it. Precipitation up to levels 1 through 6. On a separate scope for us that's in the kind of back to the side of the room, it will show those cells, their movement, their direction, and their speed. It will show us also if there's a gust front ahead of those, what the wind's doing pushing ahead of that cell. We don't see lightning strikes, and we don't see clouds. Unless there's actual precipitation coming down, we can't see it. And we're only allowed to call it precipitation. We could know that it's rain, we could know that it's snow or ice or whatever it is. You shouldn't hear a controller say anything but precipitation.
Right.
Yeah, lightning strikes. I'm sure that there would be some way to integrate, because obviously there are ways to track that. You can see it on, what were you looking on? ForeFlight yesterday or on Wednesday, looking at all the lightning strikes. So, but it's money. It's money. So
money the government doesn't want to spend.
That's right.
Yeah, and there's more behind it than just simplifying it with money. I mean, when you're talking about, there's 300 plus facilities, and it's a giant movement to get something to change. I mean, our facility was one of the last ones to get a scope that, old school, we had 2 colors, green and dark green. And you could only see 2 levels of precip at a time. So you had to pick 3 and 4, 4 and 5, 5 and 6, or 1 and 2, whatever combination you wanted to do. And then we had to interpret that based on what we were seeing. So if you wanted to show, 2 and 5, you'd have a big gap of area in there where it was nothing. Your screen's not going to show you anything. And we had to figure out, well, it's obviously there's something in there. Pilots aren't going through there, so you kind of had to play around with your settings. Now we can see all 6 at one time. They're still coded funny. It's like brown and dots, more dots, annoying green, blue, and that's it.
Yeah. It's terrible.
It's terribly low. It's awful. But in your airplane, depending on what type of input you're getting, information-wise, and with your eyes, you have the best picture out the window. If you haven't flown into that weather yet, you can see better than we can. But the displays you guys have now on iPads and moving map displays with Garmin or whatever type of system you're using, you typically have better information than we do. So if you can see, hey, this looks bad, I need, dial it out on your screen. It's common at the airlines to see how far of a heading you need to get around it. Ask for it. I need 20 degrees left. I can go around this cell. Well, guess what? You're not going to be the first one to do it. I'm not sending the guy behind you there. Everybody's going to go and basically follow in that direction until I hear otherwise. Like, hey, we can make the turn now. And that happens all the time. So we don't see nearly as well, precip-wise, I don't think, as the pilot.
The only difference I think, and that I would just maybe caution, is if you're using a system that isn't live, like a radar in the nose of the plane or something, you could be getting delayed weather.
Right.
You could be 5 minutes old, maybe even more. And if some of these cells are moving at 50 knots, that's pretty quick. So he's right in terms of looking out and seeing with your eyes. That's going to be more real time than what we have. But what we have in a Tracon is pretty close to real time. It's pretty accurate. The centers, though, their weather sucks. And that's just basically how centers are. They typically just are terrible. Just together, much safer.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
I also have some business cards for you if you don't mind.
Oh, perfect. Leave them up here. Thanks. Appreciate it. Nice meeting you today.
Hey, guys. Listener, November Charlie. I fly out of famous biplane trainer airport near the Air Capital, which is a uncontrolled airport. We have a little bit of jet traffic and turboprop traffic, but it's mostly small airplanes like Cubs, Luscoms, 172s, Bonanzas. And I was wondering if you guys have, do you guys put any thought into where you're dropping off like if you're working a jet going into an uncontrolled airport, are you paying attention to how much traffic is in the pattern, what the direction of the traffic pattern is, and all of that stuff when you drop him off, or do you just get him close and let him kind of work into the pattern himself?
That's a really good question. First, thank you for the tour of the C-47 yesterday. Yeah. That was awesome. Thank you. And it was probably flying by during the show. Sorry we missed it this morning. That was early after last night. All right. So what he's talking about is an IFR arrival to a non-towered airport where, let's just assume we're on a visual approach, and that airplane eventually has to mix in with that traffic. We could go on and on and on about the speed of the airplane, the performance, how they're going to safely do that. The sooner that we can let them go, stop holding their hand, and ship them off, the better for the pilot, number one, provided they saw it, and we clear them for a visual approach. If we see some trending information, Coke Factory Airport is busy. We can see which direction they're spinning around, and the pilots are pretty good about listening to that while they're still talking to us, and they know what runway people are using, so they're getting a picture beforehand on a second radio. Now, they're also moving across the ground maybe a little faster than a prop going into a non-towered, so in terms of time, they're going to be there pretty quick, so they want to know before we say goodbye. A lot of carriers won't cancel on the air, and that's fine, but if we see a trending information, we can say it looks like they're landing south, several targets in the vicinity. If there's something physically between that aircraft and the airport, or laterally a little bit, we'll give that traffic call and maybe warn them there's various targets in the vicinity of the airport. Use caution, change advisory frequency approved, report your cancellation on the ground. Some of them come back and cancel in the air, and we've talked about that on the show. That's up to you guys. Don't feel pressure to do that if you don't want to. Some controllers may force that, but yeah, you do get cookies. You have to come all the way to try it. I don't know. I've done that before. I'll say it appears they're landing in a certain direction, and if there's a lot of them in a pattern, it doesn't take long for us to get trending information from those planes. We could see what pattern they're in because we can put up little P cones, this little projection cone of what direction they're going. And it doesn't take long to do that, or just watch it for a second before you say goodbye. So if you're getting dumped IFR into that airport, if you're a fast mover and you don't have a lot of time, try to monitor on another frequency to get an idea of what's going on. But if you can't do that because of comm issues where you only have one or don't have time to do it, ask the controller, hey, do you see anybody at the airport? We get that question all the time at the field.
Yeah. Or can we just go to advisory now? Yeah. They asked that too. We want to go to advisory. Okay. Go to advisory.
Yeah.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Don't forget to cancel.
Yeah.
Or we will hunt you down.
Yeah. If you're worried because you're going into an airport that there's always busy, it sounds like that one is, and you're coming in IFR, I don't think it would be bad if you ask the controller, hey, can you see what direction they're going? We're a little bit far out. I can't pick up anybody. I haven't heard anybody, but can you see anything? I think they'd be more than happy to say, hold on, let me look. Oh, looks like they're landing, south, for example.
Yeah.
Kind of help you out a little bit.
Cool. Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you again for the tour. Appreciate it.
Hi, I'm Sierra Hotel from the famous Red Bridge area, Cerro Bravo, whichever you prefer.
Good one.
Okay. Hello.
I'll often hear on the ATIS and the modems that such and such VOR is unmonitored, or this airport's DME is unmonitored. My question is, what kind of monitoring equipment exists, and who gets notified when something is not working, and is it in your guys' tower? How does that work?
Good question. So the stuff that we monitor, it is monitored by a controller. Okay, so at facilities where they're 24/7, there's somebody in the tower all the time. It's sort of depressing to think about.
We don't have locks on our doors.
Yeah. You could just right now. I know there's somebody, at least one person in the tower at Triad.
Yes.
On Christmas Eve, when you're home, there's somebody in the tower at Triad. So anyway, they have equipment up there that has alarms on it. So it's for every ILS, for every DME, for the runways that we have those approaches, the markers for those that have them. There's a big box that has a bunch of those in one nice convenient box, and an alarm goes off, and then it tells you which thing is in alarm. Hey, the DME for 3-2 is failed. That is the alarm right there. So if the controller just silences the alarm and just just keep hitting silent. Stop that terrible beeping and doesn't notify anybody.
That's bad.
That's basically unmonitored. I mean, but that's where it's coming from. So, and some of the other equipment, like the VOR, we don't monitor directly, but it's tied in through network, through the internet. The alarm system is to the operations center in Atlanta. And those people, hey, VOR, so they'll call us. So if somebody's on the VOR approach, we can tell them, hey, the VOR just went out, or which they should know, I guess, at that point. But anyway, that's how the monitor system works. It depends on a person listening to a thing that goes beep, and it drives you insane, and you have to silence it. And then a couple minutes later, it will do it again. So
the reason I was rolling my eyes is there seems to be a ton of VORs that are unmonitored, and ours is also out of service. Unmonitored doesn't always mean it's out of service, but for a pilot, well, great. You're telling me we won't know if it goes bad because no one's watching it? What does that mean? That it's from the pilot side, that's frustrating. Either tell me it works or tell me it doesn't work. And you've given me neither of those in that situation, but for the VORs.
Yeah, so on the unmonitored piece of that, the Army has requirements for alternate planning, right? So if the nav aid that you're using for the approach that you're planning to do at your destination is unmonitored, you need an alternate.
Right.
That is
because we're going to assume it's going to break.
Right. That's when you want to know, I guess. I don't know civilian stuff at all in terms of, planning, but that's how the Army works it. Yeah.
I'm also rolling my eyes because it's pervasive. They're all over, and
it's becoming more and more. And the
It's-
VORs that are dying, they just let them die.
yeah, they let them die. So if that VOR is scheduled to be out of commission in X amount of months, and it's on a schedule, which there are schedules for most of them to go away, with outside of a few, Triad's one of them that will stay. For all the planes that'll be flying around during Armageddon, I guess. They'll be landing here. But, there's tons of them that they just let them die. We're not going to monitor anymore. Nobody cares. But that's frustrating because you guys need them. You use them. They're part of approaches. They're part of the navigation system. So to kind of let it go from pilots, that's frustrating. Maybe I'm old school and I think VOR should stay, but bring back the NDBs.
Boo.
I'm kidding. Thanks for the question, though. Yeah. I was joking. Let's be clear here.
Hi guys, Echo Bravo from the Middle Finger State. I'm one of your but got a slightly different question for you. I fly a RG182. I actually do a fair amount of backcountry stuff on it, but I'm working towards my commercial. I was with my old man who flies with me. We were doing a RNAV to a 1.8, and we hit a deer on landing. So we got the plane off the runway, called the controlling airspace, let them know there's goop on the runway. Is there anything you guys are looking for specifically in that type of situation from the pilot, or do you just need to know, hey, there's goop, the airplane's off the runway, everyone's fine?
So that's a very good question. You want to start with?
They're going to want to know. So we don't typically memorize what's on these forms, but once you go through the list of aircraft incident, what happened, then it's going to bring up all these questions. And when you call back, so when you call initially and say, hey, we hit a deer, they're going to have to go prepare that stuff. They're going to say, can I call you back or can you call us back? And then they're going to answer, or they're going to ask all those questions on there. Was there damage to the airplane? Was anybody hurt? Was there damage to the deer, obviously?
It was in three pieces. There was a
Yeah.
They might want to know where it is on the runway, because the airport, we can't close the airport. And until that NOTAM comes out that makes it closed because there's a carcass on the runway, pilots can still go in there. I can't stop them, but I can say, hey, somebody hit a deer and it's in the first third of the, runway 6 or whatever. So that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I had an incident recently. At the time, it was a non-towered airport. It was the tower was closed, and it was an airline that was going in there for maintenance. Everybody turn around. That's an awesome airplane. They thought they hit a deer. It turns out they didn't. But what they did, and we worked together on the radio to solve this problem together. I said, I can't stop you from taking off. There's nobody at the airport to go look out there right now. And what the captain decided was he was going to taxi his plane down the runway at taxi speed. And you could light up a runway pretty good with an airliner. And look, and they didn't see any deer. They came back and said, all right, we don't see any deer. We got out, we inspected the airplane. There's no damage. I said, all right, this is all recorded, and I don't feel like we have to get anything else from you. It was a hypothetical. But in your case, and like he said, that delay, before that NOTAM gets issued, which is going to be done by the airport authority there, and in the middle of the night or late at night, it might not happen until the next day. We're going to throw something up on our pages for every controller to see that between now and that NOTAM, there's a Bambi on the runway, and Bambi's sad. So, yeah, Bambi didn't make it, but. And the Middle Finger State, thank you for bringing that up.
You're welcome.
We got into a lengthy discussion about, hey, you're from there. You can explain how you guys tell us where you're from.
So anybody who's not from Michigan, it's a thing. I like to say I don't do it, but I do. If people ask where you're from, you go like this. I'm from around here. And apparently you guys are talking about one of our north ones up here somewhere.
We had fun with that. Hopefully we didn't offend you. I'm sorry if we did. It was great meeting you. Thank you for the question.
Hey guys, good to see you again.
What's
Thanks
up?
for coming out and doing this. This is awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
So I'm Mike Sierra, one of the Mike Sierras, also one of the Mike Sierras. So I'd like it entered into the log that I'm now original Mike Sierra from
Original
Wisconsin.
Mike Sierra. Noted.
All right. First quick question. How many good-looking guys in opposing bases t-shirts did you yell "stir me" at before I turned around?
I knew it was you, and I'm very happy with my memory because
I was impressed. Yeah.
in 2019 we saw each other from a distance, and I think you were wearing an opposing base shirt. It might have been that one.
Yeah.
And today, right, well, at about 2:00, we came up to check out the scene and arranged getting all these wires up here from our camp. And EAA said, "We'll take you back to camp in the golf carts." We're like, "Oh, well, that's awesome!"
Yeah.
And we had just gotten off the cart. I was almost falling off it. I was about to fall off the golf cart, and I saw you, and I'm like, "Stanley!"
I'm like, who's calling me "stir me"?
But yeah, I didn't yell "stir me" at anybody else.
Okay. Yeah. Then quick comment on the parachute jump ops. I would just like to put it out to all jump pilots that when they announce on a CTAF that parachute jumpers are happening, that they do it at the cadence that AG does IFR clearances at.
Slowly.
Yes. Otherwise, they just kind of jumpers away, 12,000. Blah, blah, blah. And you're like, well, where was that?
Yeah. I had someone thank me one time for reading the clearance slowly.
Yeah.
And he said, "No, that was really easy to copy down. I really appreciate you slowing it down." I said, "Sir, that was 100% right there. That's as fast as it gets."
All right, good deal. And then my main question is, I was listening back sometime to a live ATC, like December, January-ish time, and RH was working his favorite shift, and apparently Washington Center had gone ATC 0, and you had an American Airlines plane trying to get to Roanoke.
Yeah.
And I was just curious if you could kind of go through what the process of how much coordinating you guys do to make it even work.
Oh, that was a nightmare. So big picture, the system is not designed to shut down centers at a time. There's several areas at a center, and individually they could go out, and there's contingency plans to work them from other places in that center. But when everyone in that building goes bye-bye, the system isn't set up for that. And in this case, they own down to the surface, and there was no way around the short way to get to Tracons like the Triad. And by the time everybody realized that, the pilot was committed to a route that was basically a dead end. And I'll be honest, there was not a lot of coordination done in that specific case.
Okay.
We should have done more, but without getting too much into the bad of what happened over the last year, because I think controllers in general did very good dealing with those one-offs where it was sporadic. One center might go down for a few hours. That got better as the year progressed, where it wasn't as long. But we have to figure it out. The airplane can't just stop flying, and we have to get on the phone with somebody who can help us with routing that's really far away. You can't see that. I don't know routes that you can do. We have to start talking about gas. When an airplane thinks that they can go, east for 200 more miles, but instead I have to take them 200 miles north, 200 miles northeast, and then over to their airport. They're not ready for that. They're not prepared for that, and they don't understand. Wait a second. You're telling me that there's this big black hole that I can't fly through, and that was the case. Super frustrating from a controller perspective. I wish there was more coordination, but I'm not embarrassed to say it. We reacted well, but it was reactive. It wasn't planning. When those things happened last year, you didn't get a lot of warning. It's happening now. Figure it out. These planes are coming. And back then, the traffic wasn't quite as picked up. If that happened today, it would be ugly. Right. So, but good question. Thanks, man.
Gentlemen, long-time listener, first-time question asker. Alpha Charlie fly out of a airport in the city where they go 200 laps around a track at high speeds to do 500 miles an hour, or to do 500 miles. Sorry about that. We'll lean a little bit closer. So the question, I have a two-part question, but I have to give a brief story to kind of put some context. So we took a family trip, my wife and I, up to an island that is right above the middle finger and in the middle finger state. And the weather was very, very sketchy. We ended up, after shaving 15 years off my wife's life expectancy by having to go miss twice, we diverted to our alternate, which was quite literally in the middle finger of this state. Ended up meeting up with 2 other 135 operators that were trying to get into this island behind me. And we had a break in the weather that allowed us to all get in, ceilings lifted. My question, 2-part question was, so Minneapolis Center controls this airspace. The flight was like 9 minutes to go from this airport. We were cleared, radar vectors, then the initial approach fix, and then in. Should I have told, when I got my clearance on the ground, should I have told them, look, I'm not going to cancel in the air. I'm going to wait till I get on the ground, because if they cleared these other planes behind me, I was the first one out of 3 planes. If they clear the same way through these other 2 planes and they give them radar vectors, are they just going to be giving them delay vectors the entire time until I cancel when I'm on the ground? Because my CFI always told me never cancel until you're on the ground if the weather's even sketchy, because once you give up that airspace, you're never going to get it back again. So these other 2 airplanes that took off, should I have let ATC know? Would that have been just a nice unwritten rule gesture to say, to the clearance, tell the other guys behind me, I'm not going to cancel my clearance until I'm on the ground at this airport, so they can just sit on the ground waiting rather than getting delay vectors before they can clear them from the approach. Make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yes, you should. I think you should. They should also expect that. If the weather's bad, the controller should expect that you're going to cancel on the ground. I wouldn't expect anything else.
To be fair, the ceilings ended up lifting to like 1,600. So
even
that's not really high. I mean,
yeah,
it's high enough, but it's not like
45 minutes ago they were 200. So
right.
Yeah, right. No, well, I still think tell them, and that might make their decision. Controllers, and I've said this before, you have to be careful as a controller on clearing that second guy before the first guy is, because as long as you keep that second plane on the frequency, you can do something else with him if he gets too close, and now you got to break him out. But you certainly cannot let that go, just hoping that you landed safely.
Right.
And you letting him know that it's going to be a minute for me to land and taxi in and then call you just gives him, the preparation that he needs to make a decision on what am I going to do with number 2 and number 3. I think you should.
Yeah, and here's the fun fact. I don't think the airlines, at least in mine, we could not cancel in the air, so they weren't going to do it either. They were going to wait till they got on the ground to call the number. That sounds funny, but just because you're in a slower plane in this scenario, and this is, an unusual weather situation, that's going to be a highlight of your flying for the next couple of years. And, a stressful day for your wife, and you're wondering if you're doing the right thing. You're part of the system. You could share that information, but don't feel obligated to somehow go faster or do something that you wouldn't normally do because you're worried about 2 planes behind you. They're used to that. They're going to a place that's non-towered, and there's other.
I did have that thought in the air. It's like, all right, runway's in sight. I'm well below the clouds right now. I could cancel right now because I know that there's at least one of them in the air behind me wanting to get in. But kudos to the training of my CFII that said, look, never, if it's ever in question, even remotely in question, keep that clearance until you're safely on the ground.
Yeah,
everybody else can wait.
You can make that decision guilt-free, in my opinion.
Oh, absolutely. You are under no obligation to anybody to cancel in the air. It's well within your right to wait until you're safely on the ground before you cancel. Because not only do you get airspace, but you give up anybody looking for you.
Mm-hmm.
If you crash on the approach end and you're laying there in the plane, nobody's coming to look for you, except maybe the second guy sees the plane there on the runway.
Hey, that guy that canceled.
Oh, there's a
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
So this is Patron Juliet Mike. I can never come up with a good name, but the western part of the Rocky Mountain State.
Okay.
Anyway, the first feedback about checking your mic reminded me of a story that happened to me, and I was curious if it happened to you all very often. We were doing pattern work in a class Delta, and the radio went, when we were about 3 or 4 landings in. And I told my students, okay, so we're going to just keep flying and we're going to start to turn to the base. And I was transmitting and it's like, we'll be looking for some lights. All of a sudden, green, flash, 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 and then steady green. I was like, okay, there it is. All right. And so that's the first time. I've never seen that in real life. You know, you have to learn about it.
Right.
You know, and we teach it and all this stuff, but I've never seen it. But it was quick. It was probably I don't know. By the time he figured out that we weren't hearing him, it was probably 30 seconds or so, and then we had lights. And it was super, super easy to see.
At night?
No, this was about 2:30 in the afternoon.
Wow. Oh, okay. That's a surprise for me.
And so, anyway, I was curious to know, does that happen very often? And then it's dumb on me because when I landed, I was like, oh, yeah, I have GJT's tower number in my phone. So I called him up and I thanked him for it. And he's like, well, you should have just called me. I'm like, I know, I forgot. But anyways, I was curious if it happened to you. Another quick little funny story. There's a airport close to us, has a lot of airline traffic that's uncontrolled. And this one airline pilots, they fly into there and they have no clue what to do in an uncontrolled field. We have some of the big guys that come in. And he was probably, I don't know, I think he said it was 30 miles out. And he's like, Montrose traffic, you know, so-and-so, 30 miles to the wherever. Which runway is active runway? Silence. I was up training a student.
Yeah.
Silence. A little bit later, he come back and did it again. And I just I probably shouldn't have done it, but I keyed up and it's like, whichever one you choose. Oh! And then he says, okay, 17. So I don't know. It's like, I think everyone just forgets after a while how to do that. But I was curious about the whole losing comms, if y'all dealt with that very often. Do you have to find that the light is just stuck under some hole somewhere and never tried it out for the past year and a half? I don't know. Just curious.
The light guns in the tower, we have 2 hanging from the ceiling. They're hardwired in to power, and you just reach up and pull it down, and it's like an enigma machine to figure out how to do green or red.
Yeah.
It's not in any way intuitive. And then we have another one that's battery powered that sits there by itself in a little case, and it's a little better. It's a little easier because it's got buttons on the back. One's white and one's green, but to do red, you push the white and pull the trigger, maybe.
Yeah.
Point it at the ground to see what color's coming out before you stick it out the window.
Oh, we're pointing at the ground controller.
Yeah. And they're pretty powerful. You can feel the heat. If you left it on and stuck it on the counter, it would start burning the counter.
Yeah.
I mean, they're
How big a light actually is it?
they're probably, I don't know, 10 inches
yeah.
maybe. And the big ones are that long, and it's got a big grip on it.
Gotcha.
The biggest takeaway from light guns, if you land on the runway and when you go to switch to ground, you realize that you're still on approach and that you never talk to tower, and then you switch to ground and they say, hey, did you see the green light? You don't say no.
Yes, it was so bright. Thank you.
Yes, I saw it. We had radio problems here. That kind of thing. There's a little trick for you. So
the non-tower part of your question, I'll answer real quick, and I make fun of, that I hear that too when I'm in the system, but I'm also guilty of. I don't have a lot of experience recently, and when I say recently, in the last 20 years in a non-towered airport. That was done a long time ago, and the further away you get from that, when you guys are in that system all day long, you think, how could you forget how to make pattern entries? If you're at an airline and you maybe go to one non-towered airport in a 10-year span, you are going to stumble and sound funny on the radio. So I would be, take it with a grain of salt. You think you'll never forget how to do it, but if you are IFR doing ILSs every day, over and over and over, then one day someone says, hey, you have to cancel on the ground. They're going to be, whoa, what do you mean? What is this cancel you talk about? I have to do what? Use a phone. Wait, hold on, what? And then now you're in the plane, you have to make pattern entry call-outs. You're going to get a whole array of things. They might just start talking. Like, I'm here, I'm doing this, I'm turning left, I'm going to land. How's everybody doing tonight? Is this the right thing to do? Just bear with them.
Yeah.
Thanks, though.
Good evening, guys. So on our flight, me and the plane, solo IFR, and no autopilot in IMC on the way to my staging area right before coming to Oshkosh. And I'd already been given a much more complicated route than they originally cleared me for through the system. So I got a verbal route, thankfully, before I got off the ground. And then, so I'm now being vectored for traffic in IMC in a route that's going to take me twice as long as it should have if they just give me the original route. And they said, okay, I've got a reroute for you. And I'm like, another one? And
how nice.
Right, how nice. So I've got to figure out how to fly the plane and write down a brand new route that they'd already. So they then read me the exact route they had already given me, which was a relief. But when I simply keyed up and I said, okay, that's the one I've already got, and about a half a second later, I heard one of your voices in my head is like, but you have to read it back again. So
that could have been enough. I'm sorry. I'll let you finish your question before I step on your toes there.
No, it was actually more of a thank you to you guys for explaining that when you get a route read to you, you have to read it back again, even though you've already got that exact route given to you by a previous controller. And so it was just like thanks again for everything that you're doing, and there really wasn't a question as much as an opportunity to thank you in public for this. Happened last week on my way to here, where it was oh, you need me to go this, and I just read it, and then the controller was like, thank you, because otherwise it would have been a much more longer conversation for him to get me to read it back,
and spellings and all that,
and all the spellings, and I already had that written down, so that was good on you guys. Thanks.
Thank you for sharing the story. Real quick, I'll say, if you do get a reroute issued a couple times, it could be simple as the facility gave it to you, and then when you go to a new one, the way automation works and the way we see that flight plan presented on the tiny little strip, it may not indicate that you have it already, and we're giving you preferential routing that we have to issue, and it may have been just given to you maybe 30, 40 miles ago, but that next facility, there's a million little things in the background that I don't understand even after all these years that I didn't know you got it, so I'm going to read it to you again. So thanks for sharing that, Hotel Golf.
Hi guys, Sierra Bravo, completely brand new noob listener as of here.
Welcome to the show.
From the southwestern corner of the Buckeye State, where everything's 20 years behind.
Whoop, whoop. Well, you've really caught on to the lingo, though.
Yes,
Just
very
quickly.
What are your thoughts? This past springtime, I was bringing back my RV, shameless plug right out here, back from Alabama from getting painted. And across 2 separate centers, 3 separate times, I was asked by center to try and relay to another plane that I saw on ADS-B that they were out of contact from. It's one of those odd situations that there's not really any phraseology about that. And actually, one center asked me, okay, I couldn't get a hold of him. They asked me to try again about 15 minutes later before a sector handoff. And I'm just wondering about your thoughts, suggestions, and that on like phraseology for the pilot side. So I was like, okay, November 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 from November 2 Sierra Bravo, whatever it was, center on such and such frequency is trying to contact you. Hello. So from your thoughts from your pilot side on trying to relay, or have you had situations as a controller where you've had to try to have others relay for you?
Oh yeah, all the time.
All the time.
That is a great tool in your kit as a controller, because we have known places where you're too far and too low from a transmitter. I'm probably not going to be able to talk to you, and it's usually when I think you're trying to cancel, or there's some important exchange that needs to happen, or a frequency change, and I will ask other pilots to relay that, if they can. You're probably getting picked as an RV because you're up higher, you're in a good, better line of sight. The controller doesn't want to bother the jets that are up high. Maybe they're busy, they're in some kind of phase of flight, and he kind of sees you as a target of opportunity to relay that. As far as phraseology, I don't.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
gotta
I
make
don't
it
care.
up.
Say whatever.
Hello, you're back trying to be gotten
Yeah.
a hold of. Contact center.
Yeah, don't get tongue tied on trying to make sure your call sign's perfect and saying, I try to break it down slow. I need you to do me a favor. All right, what do you need me to do? November 5726 Bravo. Just reach out and see if he can hear you.
Yeah.
Let's take care of that first. Then when he can hear me, all right, this is what I need you to try. Give him another frequency. Centers have land geography stretchings of their frequencies that becomes an issue, and sometimes they have to relay to get you to the proper one. And it could have been as simple as that person missing a handoff, or change to my frequency on this one because I won't be able to hear you on this frequency anymore, and they're combined up. So
Yeah, that one time, the one particular center asked me to try and get across his two separate frequencies, and oddly enough, I was following along. The guy finally did key up almost 20 minutes later to another sector, and that sector controller was not exactly happy.
No.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, good question. Thank you. We're getting towards the end. We'll take a couple more that you guys have been waiting there. Let's do those. And if anybody has anything pressing that you're waiting to stand up, we only have a few more minutes before we got to give up the space. I don't think there's anybody behind us, but we'll end it
say
with
6 o'clock.
Yeah,
so.
we'll end it with these two. Thanks for
Good
waiting.
evening.
Yeah, hello.
Mike Papa, also from the Sourdough Bravo.
Okay.
I saved you with Sierra Hotel. So I had a question about, I was trying to get some practice approaches done, and there was a nice marine layer over a particular airport, very localized, so we got a pop-up clearance. I know that y'all like when we cancel IFR, but I didn't know where the tops were, so at the tops, I said that I'll cancel when I climb another 1,000 feet, and then canceled at that altitude. I'm just wondering if there's a better procedure for letting you know in advance when I intend to cancel, given that I need to be 1,000 feet above clouds to maintain VFR.
And your intention was to continue to fly VFR just above the clouds and.
Yeah, I was going to continue on top and then fly another couple practice approaches in airports that were severe clear VFR.
Okay, good question.
I'd say, it's good to know. I'd like to know what you're going to do. And the part of that that's important to controller is the boundaries with other sectors. And if he knows that you're going to cancel once you're 1,000 feet above where you are now, hey, we just broke out, I'll cancel in 1,000 feet. He knows he's not going to have to do anything with the next sector. You're not an IFR airplane anymore, and so it's giving him a heads up. Hey, I don't need to coordinate with these guys. It definitely is going to help. It's going to help that guy, I think.
And if you started with a pop-up saying you were VFR and hey, I just want to pop up to get through this layer, we're going over to these airports where it's clear, the controller is going to be very happy about that because this is instant. I mean, this is just you changing your place in space to get above the weather.
Yeah, so we shot the approach to get through the IMC for practice, and then did a mist back up through the layer.
So be careful with that. If you're going to go into the clouds, practice approach or not, you got to be on. You have to be.
Yeah, so that's why we were on a pop-up.
Okay. And the other part of it, you were getting above the clouds to go over to other airports that were clearing a million. Yeah, the sooner you can let the controllers know, because they can plan ahead and plan space into those other airports. And the other pilots on frequency hear your plan, and they may end up, hey, I'm going to go over here, the weather's great, and do approaches over there. So the sooner you can share that information, especially in that busy Bravo area, the better.
All right, thank you.
No, thank you.
Thanks.
Hey, guys, Delta Golf from just east of the Buckeye Delta.
All right.
Okay. First of all, thanks for doing a great show. I recommend you to all my instrument students. I'm a double I. But do you have any suggestions or tips for people, and maybe this should be a show topic or something later on, about using ForeFlight and filing and things that would make life on your side of the mic easier, and things we can do as instructors to teach that to them?
The one that comes to mind for me is on ForeFlight, you can see what previous routes were issued, right?
Yeah, they have the preferred routes that are in there.
Yeah, so if you see a similar type aircraft getting this common route, file that, because that's probably what you're going to get. If you're going A to B and 4 of the guys in a similar type altitude and speed, are getting that route, it's going to make your life easier because now.
So those do actually work for you guys. Then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
If it
'Cause I
says
heard
assigned
somebody
by,
else that they basically throw that out. They don't necessarily use those. So.
if it says last, assigned by ATC or I think it's that category. Those are real routes that probably got amended by a controller to be where they want them to be. Now, this kind of gets into the weeds, but you're getting that pref route for some airspace confliction or traffic deconfliction. And if that traffic on one day is now flopped around, landing the other direction, now they might take you a different way.
route.
So sometimes it's really hard to predict. You think, I've got it. I know this. We've got this last time. The last 2 times they gave us this route. I know how to file this. And then you go out and off they send you somewhere else.
Yeah, I think it's a good starting point if you wanted to teach your students, hey, this is available information to us. We may not get this, but this is something that we can.
Good starting point.
A starting point, and it may have been based on a different altitude, which I can send one person direct at 4,000, but I can't do it at 8 or 6. It might be a restriction that you don't understand by seeing those suggested routes, but it's a great starting point, and I think for a student, it lets them know, hey, and I've talked about this, and I got a lot of heat for this. You can file direct, but in a lot of places, you shouldn't expect to get that all the time. And I don't think all of you do. I think you're open to the idea that I'm not going to go directly through Bravos. But when you're in a Bravo, IFR or not, there's probably some sort of restriction if you're not landing at one of those airports to get you around it. And the more you can get your student to understand that, like, hey, we can't always plan straight line and hope for the
I
best.
try to tell them to pick a fix every 100 miles.
That's a
and
good
go
technique.
from fix to fix to fix. It makes a straight line,
right?
But it gives the controllers an idea as to where we want to go next. And if they do need to deviate us slightly, they can pick something that kind of follows that same.
And it also puts their eyes on the maps to see VORs around. So if they're 100 miles into that flight and they get direct to a VOR they've never heard of, well, they probably saw it when they were finding those points that you had them file. So they have something in their head, planning wise and familiarity with the area that they may never fly again or haven't flown there, but they've seen it at one point. So I think it's good data to use. Just be open-minded, and nothing's guaranteed until you get the clearance. And then, of course, we all know about reroutes. That example with Metroplex changes directions of the runway. It changes how we go around their airspace drastically if they switch from north to south and the other way. So you're in the middle of your flight. Guess who suffers?
I used to fly for an airline that flew into Metroplex all the time, so
Yeah.
I'm familiar. Gantt was our favorite going home to Roanoke.
Yeah.
Great question.
That also opens up to the conversation that we have all the time is why am I getting these reroutes? And I think that's a great thing for maybe not a beginning instrument student, but once they kind of get their feet wet a little bit, let's try to now understand why is this happening? Let's look at the big picture of these Bravos. Look at where all these planes are going. They're going to be on a downwind. They're curving in. They're high up here. They're low over here. So why are we getting these reroutes? And typically it'll be like a 20-mile buffer away from where that traffic is that you're going to have to go around. They're not just going to let you sneak in underneath where these downwinds are or whatever. So I think it's a good point. It's something I didn't understand at all as a pilot until I started doing this job. And I think it's a good thing for a newer instrument student to kind of just be exposed to that concept anyway.
Cool.
This was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun. And there were a lot more people here than we thought would show up.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think there were a lot more people here at the beginning.
Hey, it's our cue. So normally we end the show by telling everybody how far behind we are in feedback. We're still behind. We're up to June 24th. If we haven't responded to your email, send it from another email to make sure we got it. It's not in spam. We do try to respond to everybody, at least through email, or we give you a heads up that you're coming up on a show. So if you're behind on episodes and you want to make a note of it, we know people don't listen to podcasts currently. They may go bounce around all over the place, so we try to keep the the feedback informed that they're going to be on the show so they can hear the answer. So keep sending those questions in. It makes the show. I want to thank everybody that supports the show specifically that's here. I know a lot of your faces. We've met before. The support of our show means a lot to us. So thank you very much
Yes,
to
thank you.
the patrons in the audience. Thank you. AG?
Thanks everybody for being here. It really means a lot to us. It was a lot of fun. Enjoy the rest of your time at AirVenture.
Closing out live AirVenture episode 188 of Opposing Bases Air Traffic Talk. Romeo Hotel
and Alpha Golf. Goodbye, everyone.
Good job, man. That was fun. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, this would have been a lot quicker in my car on 2x speed.
Oh, wait, okay. What are we doing here? Okay. All right.
So you guys are nothing like what I expected you to do.
Yeah, didn't you expect him to be really old?
Guys, thank you so much. We're out of North Idaho. You're from Spokane originally? Okay, yeah, I fly out of Moses all the time. Oh, really? Yeah, it's my favorite. You got a card to give me, Charlie?
Actually, I do. Yeah, I'd love to share the cards with you. One of my favorite experiences. Oh no worries. One of my favorite experiences was I was doing night cross countries, and here I'm using the biggest runway in Moses Lake.
Yeah.
C-17s are doing night ops on all these small guys. So yeah, it's fun.
What is it, 13,
I think
14,000?
yeah, it's 13, something like that. It's really live, crazy. Thank you guys so much. It's made a big difference in my life.
So you come back around Pacific Northwest.
We try to get out every year. You know, my folks are any freighting there. So, yeah.
I loved your that quote when you're in the show, and Tara Fitzgerald said, "Hey, can you fly closer?"
Bye, everybody.
Freight train. Yeah. It was some.